Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
The sky had not been blue for 93 days. No one agreed on the exact number anymore. Time had become slippery since the ships arrived. But everyone remembered the day the color drained away. It didn't fade gently. It was taken, replaced overnight by a thick, shifting canopy of crimson clouds that pulsed faintly, like something alive breathing just beyond sight. At first, people had stared upward in awe. Then the disappearances began. Now, the streets were quiet, not empty, never completely empty, but quiet in the way a forest goes silent when a predator enters. Doors stayed shut. Curtains remained drawn. Even the wind seemed to move more carefully, as if it, too, had learned not to draw attention. On what used to be Maple Street, the silence broke. A small pair of footsteps pattered unevenly across cracked asphalt. She was barefoot. The older girl couldn't have been more than 6, maybe 7, though it was hard to tell. Her frame was slight, almost fragile, and her movements carried a strange, unnatural grace, as if gravity held her differently than it did everything else. Her skin glimmered faintly, barely visible in the dim red light, like frost-catching moonlight. It wasn't bright enough to illuminate her surroundings, but it made her impossible to ignore, which was dangerous, very dangerous. "Stay here," she whispered, her voice trembling as she knelt beside the smaller child. The toddler, tiny, curled against the curb, didn't respond. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. One small hand still clutched a piece of fabric, as if she'd been holding on to something that was no longer there. The older girl brushed dust from her face with careful fingers. "It's okay," she murmured, though her voice cracked. "I'm right here. I won't let them take you." A faint hum began overhead. Her body stiffened. Slowly, too slowly, she looked up. The clouds parted. Not naturally, not like weather. They peeled back in a perfect circle, revealing a darkness deeper than night. From within it, something descended, smooth, metallic, silent except for the low vibration that seemed to press against her bones. A ship. It didn't rush. It didn't threaten. It simply arrived. The girl's breath hitched. "No!" she whispered. She glanced around the street, desperate. Windows closed. Doors locked. Shadows watching. Someone was there. She could feel it. Humans hiding, holding their breath, praying not to be seen. She didn't blame them. She understood fear, but understanding didn't make her any less alone. The hum deepened. A column of pale blue light spilled from the underside of the ship, touching the ground with eerie precision. It spread slowly, like liquid glass, until it reached the edge of the sidewalk. Closer, closer. The girl stood. Her legs shook, but she didn't move away. Instead, she stepped forward, placing herself directly between the beam and the smaller child. "No!" she cried, her voice breaking through the silence. The sound carried, not just through the air, but through something else. It rippled outward, subtle but powerful, brushing against the edges of every hidden place nearby. Behind curtains, people flinched. "Please!" she shouted again, louder this time. "Don't take her." The beam paused, just for a fraction of a second. It had heard her. Hope flickered. "She's just 3, the girl pleaded, tears spilling freely now. "She doesn't even understand what's happening. Take me instead. I'm older. I can go. Just leave her here." The air felt heavy, charged. The ship responded, not with words, but with motion. The beam shifted, not away, toward both of them. The girl's breath caught in her throat. "No, no, that's not what I meant," she whispered, panic flooding her voice. She spread her arms wider, as if she could physically block the light. "You don't need both of us," she cried. "Please, I'm enough." The beam intensified. The ground beneath her feet began to hum, vibrating softly. The toddler stirred weakly, letting out a small, confused whimper. The older girl turned instantly, dropping to her knees. "It's okay," she said quickly, brushing the child's hair back. "I'm here. I'm right here." The light crept closer. It reached her toes. Warm. Not painful. That was the worst part. It didn't hurt. It didn't burn. It simply took. The girl squeezed her eyes shut. "Please," she whispered one last time, her voice barely audible now. "Anyone?" The beam surged, and then a sharp crack split the air. Loud, violent, human. The beam flickered. The hum stuttered. The girl's eyes snapped open. For a moment, everything froze, the light, the ship, even the wind. Another crack echoed, and this time the sky itself seemed to ripple. Somewhere, someone had stopped running and chosen to fight instead. The sound didn't belong. That was the first thing the girl realized. Everything about the world since the ships arrived had been controlled, quiet in a suffocating way. Even destruction came without chaos, clean, precise, almost polite. But that sound, it was sharp, crude, defiant, human. The beam flickered again, its steady glow stuttering like a failing heartbeat. The hum from the ship above wavered, rising into a higher pitch, almost uncertain. For the first time since it had descended, the machine hesitated. The girl's chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. She didn't move, not yet. Fear had rooted her in place. But something else crept in alongside it. Confusion. Hope. Another shot rang out. The beam snapped off completely. Darkness rushed back into the street, broken only by the faint red glow of the sky. "What?" she whispered. From afar into the street, a figure stepped into view. At first, he looked like just another survivor. Thin, worn, layered in scavenged clothing that blended into the ruins. But he didn't move like the others. There was no hesitation in his stride, no instinct to hide. He walked forward as if the sky wasn't watching him, as if he didn't care that it was. In his hands was a rifle, old in shape, but wrong in detail. Its surface wasn't scratch metal. It was something smoother, darker, threaded with faint lines of dim blue light that pulsed slowly, like veins carrying energy instead of blood. The girl stared. That weapon didn't belong to humans. And yet, he carried it like he'd always had it. "Step away from the light," the man said. His voice was steady. Not loud, not panicked, just certain. The girl blinked at him, her mind struggling to catch up. You need to go," she said quickly, her voice shaking. "They'll see you." "I know," he replied. He didn't even look at her. His eyes were fixed on the ship above. The clouds churned again, reacting now. The smooth, silent order of the invaders had cracked, just slightly, but enough to reveal something beneath it. Awareness. The beam reignited. Faster this time. More focused. The man raised a rifle. "Don't!" the girl gasped. "You can't fight them." He fired. The recoil was heavier than it should have been, kicking into his shoulder with force that echoed down the empty street. But the shot itself, it wasn't just a projectile. It was a distortion. The air bent around it, rippling outward like heat over asphalt, except sharper, violent in a way that reality itself seemed to reject. The beam shattered, not faded, not dimmed, shattered. Fragments of blue light broke apart midair, dissolving into nothing. Above them, the ship jerked. For the first time since arriving on Earth, it moved abruptly, reactively. The hum turned jagged, unstable. The girl stared, her mouth slightly open. "That's not possible," she whispered. The man lowered the rifle slightly, exhaling through his nose. "Yeah," he muttered. "They keep thinking that." The ship adjusted position, rising slightly as if reassessing. The clouds around it twisted tighter, darkening at the edges. It was no longer just collecting. Now it was watching. "You don't understand," the girl said, her voice urgent now. She stepped toward him, still keeping herself between him and the toddler. "They'll mark you. Once they do, they won't stop. Not ever." He finally looked at her. His eyes were tired. Not scared. Not angry. Just tired. "Kid," he said, "they've already taken everything worth hiding for." The words landed heavier than the silence. She didn't know how to respond to that. Above them, a new sound emerged, lower, deeper, not from the ship itself, but from somewhere beyond it. Reinforcements. The man's gaze flicked upward. "Yeah," he said under his breath. "That figures." The girl's fear surged again. "We have to go. Now. You can't stay here." Another beam began forming. Wider this time. Stronger. Not precise. Not selective. This one wasn't about taking. It was about removing the problem. The man saw it instantly. His grip tightened on the rifle. "All right," he said. "New plan." Before the girl could react, he moved. Fast. Faster than she expected. In one smooth motion, he crossed the distance between them and crouched beside the toddler. He slung the rifle over his shoulder and gently lifted the small, limp body into his arms. The toddler stirred faintly but didn't wake. The girl froze. "What are you doing?" "Saving time," he replied. The light above surged, expanding rapidly now, swallowing the street in a growing glow. The air vibrated violently. Dust lifted from the ground. Windows rattled in their frames. The man turned, already moving. "You can keep standing there," he said, glancing back at her, "or you can help me make sure she doesn't get taken." That broke it. The hesitation, the fear, the paralysis. The girl ran. She caught up to him quickly, her smaller form moving with that same unnatural grace, barely making a sound as they sprinted down the broken street. Behind them, the beam crashed into ground. Not gentle, not quiet. The world exploded into light. The force of it chased them, a wave of energy tearing through everything it touched, cars, pavement, walls, disassembling matter with terrifying precision. The man didn't look back. "Faster," he said. "I am," she shot back, panic creeping into her voice. The edge of the street collapsed behind them. The light gained. Closer, closer. They turned a corner, just as the beam swallowed the road they had been on seconds before. The force at the side of the building, sending cracked spider webbing through the walls. The girl stumbled. The man caught her without stopping. Keep moving. They didn't slow down until the sound faded, until the light stopped chasing them, until the silence returned. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one was different. This one was watching. The man finally slowed, shifting the toddler slightly in his arms. "They're not guessing anymore," he said. The girl looked up at him, her silver eyes wide. "No," she whispered. "Now they know." He nodded once. "Good." She blinked, confused. "Good." He adjusted his grip on the rifle, his expression hardening just slightly. "Means we finally got their attention." They didn't stop running until the city swallowed them. The open streets gave way to tighter corridors, collapsed alleyways, half-buried stairwells, broken entrances that led nowhere and everywhere at once. The man moved through it all without hesitation, as if he'd memorized every fracture in the city's bones. The girl struggled to keep up at first, not because she was slow, but because she kept looking back. "They're tracking us," she said, her voice tight with fear. "I know. You don't understand." "I do." His tone wasn't harsh, just final. That unsettled her more than panic would have. They reached a rusted service door embedded in the side of a crumbling structure. Without breaking stride, the man shifted the child in one arm and yanked the door open with the other. Inside. She hesitated for half a second, then followed. The door slammed shut behind them, cutting off the red glow of the sky. Darkness swallowed them whole, thick, suffocating. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, a soft click. Dim white light flickered on from a small device in the man's hand. The tunnel stretched ahead, narrow and concrete, lined with old pipes and cables that hadn't carried anything in years. The air smelled stale, untouched, hidden, safe, or at least safer. The girl pressed her back against the wall, trying to steady her breathing. "They saw your weapon," she said. "They'll adapt to it. Eventually. That's not a good thing." "No," he agreed. "It's not." He moved deeper into the tunnel, gesturing for her to follow. She pushed herself off the wall and walked beside him now, closer than before. She kept glancing at the child in his arms. "Is she?" "Alive," he said. "Barely. She needs rest." The girl nodded, relief washing over her face. But it didn't last. "They won't stop coming," she said again, quieter now. He didn't respond this time. That silence stretched. Finally, she spoke again. "You shouldn't have helped us." He let out a faint breath, almost like a tired laugh. "Yeah," he said. "I've been hearing that a lot lately. I'm serious." She stepped in front of him, forcing him to stop. "You don't know what we are." He met her gaze. "You're kids," he said. "That's not what I meant." Her voice echoed down the tunnel, sharper than she intended. She flinched, then lowered it again. "We're not supposed to be here," she continued. "Not like this. Not exposed." "Then what are you doing here?" She hesitated. That hesitation said everything. He tilted his head slightly. "Right. Thought so." "It's not what you think," she said quickly. "We didn't come here to hurt anyone." "Never said you did." "Then why?" "Because," he cut in, his voice calm but firm, "something else did. That stopped her." The weight of that truth settled between them. After a moment, he stepped around her and kept walking. She followed. "They're not invading you," she said after a while. "Not in the way you think." "Enlighten me." "They're collecting," she said. He glanced back at her. "You said that before." "Yes. And now you're going to tell me why." Her eyes dropped to the ground. "For a long time, my people knew they were coming," she said slowly. "Not just them, the ones above. Others. Worse." The man's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Subtle, alert. "So you ran." "No," she said. "We hid." He frowned. "On Earth." "Yes. That doesn't sound like hiding. That sounds like dumping your problem on someone else." Her head snapped up. "We didn't have a choice." Her voice cracked again, but this time there was anger in it. "They would have found us anywhere else. Your planet. It was quiet, unnoticed, for a while. And we were what? Cover? Protection," she said. "Humans adapt quickly. You survive things you shouldn't. You fight when you have no chance. We thought." She trailed off. "You thought we'd buy you time," he finished. She didn't deny it. They walked in silence for several steps. The tunnel curved slightly, leading them deeper underground. "Then they found you anyway," he said. "Yes. And now they're taking you back." Her hands clenched at her sides. "Not back," she said. "Away." He stopped again. "Explain that." She looked at the child in his arms. "They don't just want us," she said softly. "They want what we can become." "That's vague." "That's because you don't understand what we are yet." "Then help me out." She hesitated again, longer this time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "We're not supposed to grow up here." A chill moved through the tunnel. The man said nothing. "Where I come from," she continued, "we change as we age. Not just physically. Our minds expand. We start to connect to things beyond ourselves. Energy, thought, space. Sounds useful." "It's dangerous," she said, "especially here." "Why?" "Because your world isn't ready for it," she said. "And neither are we." He studied her for a moment. "You're saying a child like her," he glanced down at the toddler, "is going to turn into something those ships are scared of?" "Yes. And they want to stop that." "They want to control it," she corrected. That was worse. The tunnel lights flickered slightly. Both of them noticed. "They're close," she whispered. "Yeah," he said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device, flat metallic, with faint glowing lines similar to the rifle. He pressed it against the wall. It hissed softly. A thin layer of energy spread outward, coating the tunnel behind them like an invisible veil. "What is that?" she asked. "Delay," he said. "Not a solution. They'll break through it." "I know." She stepped closer to him now, her fear no longer hidden. "Then why are you still helping us?" she asked. "You heard everything. You know what we are, what we could become." He looked down at the child again. Small, fragile, barely breathing. Then he looked back at her. "You begged for her life," he said. Her breath caught. "That's all I needed to know." The tunnel trembled. A deep, distant impact echoed from behind them. The barrier, failing. "They're here," she whispered. The man adjusted his grip on the rifle, his expression settling into something steady, focused. "Then we move faster," he said. "Where are we going?" A faint light appeared ahead, barely visible, but real. "Someone they won't expect," he replied. Another shook the tunnel, closer this time. Cracks formed along the walls. Dust rained down. The girl looked back once, just once, toward the darkness chasing them. Then she turned forward again and ran. The tunnel ended in a door that didn't belong. Everything about the underground passage had been forgotten. Cracked concrete, rusted pipes, the slow decay of a world abandoned in layers. But the door at the end stood untouched, sealed, intentional. The man approached it without slowing. A faint panel beside the frame flickered to life as he neared, scanning him in silence. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, a soft tone. The door split open down the center. Warm light spilled out. The girl hesitated at the threshold. "This place," she whispered. "It's hidden." "That's the idea." He stepped inside. After a brief pause, she followed. The door sealed behind them with a heavy finality. Inside, the air was different, clean, filtered, alive with quiet systems that hummed beneath the surface. Lights lined the ceiling in steady rows, illuminating a space that was far larger than it should have been. A bunker, not improvised, built. People turned the moment they entered. There were maybe 20 of them, men and women, some older, some barely adults. All carried the same look, exhaustion sharpened into caution. Weapons rested in their hands or within reach, and none of them relaxed at the sight of newcomers, especially not these newcomers. "You're late," a woman near the far wall said, her voice firm. Her gaze shifted immediately to the child in his arms, then to the girl, and hardened. "You brought them here?" The room tightened. The man didn't flinch. They were about to be taken. "So are we," another voice snapped. A man stepped forward, his grip tightening on a makeshift firearm. "You led them straight to us." "I didn't lead anything," the man replied evenly. "They were already searching." "That's worse." The tension surged, sharp and immediate. The girl instinctively stepped back, her shoulders curling inward. She wasn't used to human anger, not like this, not direct, not burning. "We didn't mean," she started. "Of course you didn't," the woman cut in. "But they're not here for us, are they?" Silence. No one answered. They didn't need to. The truth hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. The ships hadn't come for humanity. Humanity had just been in the way. The man stepped forward, placing himself slightly between the group and the girl. "They're children," he said. "That doesn't matter," the armed man replied. "Not anymore." "It does to me." The words weren't loud, but they carried. The room shifted again, less chaotic now, more focused. The woman studied him carefully. "You're asking us to risk what's left of this place for them." "I'm not asking," he said. A few weapons lifted. Not fully, but enough. The girl's breath caught. The man didn't move. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, a small sound broke the silence. A weak, soft whimper. All eyes dropped. The toddler stirred in the man's arms, her tiny fingers twitching as she fought her way back toward consciousness. The tension cracked. Just a little. The woman exhaled slowly, her shoulders lowering a fraction. "Put her down," she said. The man didn't argue. He walked to a nearby table and gently laid the child down. Someone moved forward instinctively, a medic, or at least the closest thing they had, checking her breathing, her pulse. "She's alive," the medic said quietly. Relief moved through the room like a faint ripple. The older girl stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the toddler. "I'm here," she whispered. "I told you I wouldn't leave." The ground trembled, not violently, but enough. Everyone froze. A distant echoed from above. Then another, closer. "They found us," someone said. Panic stirred at the edges of the room, but it didn't take over. Not yet. These people had lived too long under fear to let it control them completely. "They always do," the woman muttered. Lights flickered. Dust sifted down from the ceiling. The girl turned, her fear returning full force. "They won't stop," she said. "Not now that they know where we are." No one argued with that. The man reached for his rifle. The familiar, faint glow along its surface pulsed stronger now, responded to something unseen. "You can't fight them down here," the armed man said. "We'll be buried." "Maybe," the man replied. Another, Louder. A crack split across one of the upper walls. "They're not trying to take us anymore," someone whispered. "No," the woman said, her voice tight. "They're trying to erase us." Silence followed. Heavy, final. The girl stepped closer to the man again, her voice trembling. "This is because of us." "Stop," he said. "But it is. If we weren't here, they'd still be here," he cut in. "Maybe not today. Maybe not like this. But sooner or later," he shook his head. "This was always coming." Another. The ceiling groaned. A piece of concrete fell, shattering against the floor. The bunker wouldn't hold much longer. The man looked around the room, at the people, at what remained, fear, exhaustion, and something else. A question. What now? He took a slow breath, then stepped forward. "They've been taking," he said, "piece by piece, person by person." No one interrupted. "They count on us hiding," he continued, "on waiting, on hoping they'll skip over us long enough to survive another day. Another, closer. But that's not survival," he said. "That's just delaying the end." The room was completely still now. "They want these kids," he said, gesturing toward the girl and the toddler. "Then they come through us to get them." The armed man frowned. "And what? We just stand here and die." The man's expression didn't change. "No," he said. He lifted the rifle. The faint blue glow intensified, spreading along its surface like waking light. "We make it cost them." Something shifted in the room. Not hope, not exactly, but something stronger than fear. The woman watched him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Positions," she said. People moved. Weapons were checked. Barricades reinforced. Whatever this place had been built for, it was about to fulfill its purpose. The girl stood frozen, watching it all unfold. "They're going to die," she whispered. The man glanced at her. "Maybe," he said. "That doesn't scare you?" He looked toward the ceiling, where cracks continued to spread. Then back at her. "It should," he admitted. Another. The main door above buckled inward, metal screaming under impossible pressure. Light began to bleed through the cracks. Bright, cold, alien. The girl stepped closer to him, her voice small again. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. "After everything you know now, why?" He didn't look away from the door. "Because you asked," he said. The metal finally gave. The door exploded inward. Light flooded the bunker. Figures descended within it. Tall, indistinct, wrapped in shifting energy. Not machines. Not entirely. Something worse. Weapons fired. The first shots rang out, loud, chaotic, human. The man stepped forward into the light. And for the first time since the sky turned red, humanity didn't hide. It fought back,